And a very good evening to you. Welcome to TV47's Daily Report. I am Shiksha, Arora, of course, alongside my sign language interpreter tonight, Walter Juma, and we'll be telling you what's happening in the country, of course, abroad as well. Globally, we have the latest. Here on this particular show, it's all about educating, entertaining, and making sure that we inform you. When it comes to matters environment, we've got you sorted. So today is actually World Environment Day, and this year's theme is Beat Plastic Pollution. So we've got a lot of stories that we'll be covering on this particular topic and this particular theme later on in this show. So make sure you stay right here at TV47 Kenya. That's how you can find us on social media. I hope you're watching us on YouTube at TV47 Kenya. Tell us where you're watching from. Eid Mubarak in advance to all our Muslim followers and of course viewers. We appreciate you and we hope that you have a blessed one with your family and friends. First things first, let's take a look at tonight's highlights. Top on the Daily Report. Deputy President Kithure Kindiki and a section of Kenya Kwanza leaders have launched a scathing attack on former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, accusing him of advancing tribal politics. The leaders emphasized the need for national cohesion and warned against rhetoric that could divide Kenyans along ethnic lines. The Parliamentary Health Committee has disclosed that the illegal kidney harvesting operation in the North Rift extended beyond Mediheal Group of hospitals. Multiple other facilities are believed to have been part of this syndicate, which preyed on vulnerable citizens. Muslim communities across the country are gearing up for Eid celebrations tomorrow, with final preparations underway. Coastal and northern counties in particular have seen heightened activity as faithful ready themselves for prayers and festivities. All right, welcome back. And tonight's top story. The National Assembly Health Committee today commenced a 90-day public inquiry, and this is into the alleged malpractice in kidney transplant services at Mediheal Hospital. Contrary to earlier reports that implicated only the Mediheal Group of hospitals, new investigations now reveal that this illicit trade involves multiple medical facilities, rogue practitioners, and unscrupulous intermediaries who are exploiting vulnerable communities. Sheila Chelengat now reports.
Appearing before the Departmental Committee on Health, chaired by Seme MP Dr. James Nyikal, Nandi Hills MP Bernard Kithure revealed that Mediheal Group of Hospitals is just one conduit within a complex web of private clinics engaged in illegal kidney transplants and unethical organ procurement practices.
Most of those families that are being targeted for boys to be lured are those that came from families that have some particular social structure, particularly those of that are single families, because they would not have people probably to fight for.
Preliminary reports reveal alarming practices, surgeries conducted without proper medical records, lack of informed consent, and insufficient follow-up care, to which some donors have suffered severe health complications. Kithure also raised allegations of falsified documents and fake donor-recipient matching records facilitating these illegal transplants.
But the correct ID is actually 39812393. There was mutilation of the, they would change numbers. Like in this one, they omitted one.
But as the Nandi Hills MP continues his push to bring to book an organ transplant syndicate, he says there have been threats to his life, the intimidation coming from hospital officials, detectives, and even local leaders.
Because I've been walking around to be able to get them, they tracked my vehicle around Eldoret and they cornered them near Brookside.
Mediheal Group of Hospitals has denied involvement in organ trafficking, asserting compliance with legal and ethical standards. However, the Ministry of Health suspended all organ transplant services at the facility, pending the outcome of the public inquiry. Sheila Chelengat for TV47.
Now, 2 people have died following communal clashes in the Matigari area of Laikipia County. Several houses were also set ablaze and many residents have been displaced. Reports now indicate that a dispute between youths from 2 different communities sparked the violent skirmishes. Chichi Josephine with more.
These are the remains of a motorcycle that was burned down, one of several properties destroyed during the skirmishes. Several houses have also been set ablaze, forcing residents to flee for their safety. It is alleged that a fight broke out between 2 individuals from these communities. The next morning, one of them was found dead, sparking further clashes.
Right, we apologize for that technical error. We'll try and bring that particular story to you as soon as possible. Now, moving on, the Inspector General of Police, Douglas Kanja, has today met with senior police commanders from across the country to discuss emerging security challenges and issues affecting the welfare of police officers. Now, as Samira Mohammed reports, going forward, county commanders will be required to form corruption prevention committees to investigate graft cases involving police officers. Take a look. All right, of course, now this particular story has been prepared by Samira Mohammed, so we're going to try and get for you that particular story as soon as possible. We also have the latest when it comes to peaceful politics, and of course this is with regards to Deputy President Kithure Kindiki, so we'll make sure that we bring this story for you. For now, let's get back to the previous story.
The National Police Service has yet again vowed to combat the malignant cancer of corruption in the service, with top security bosses now vowing that those who will be found engaging in corruption will be dismissed from the service.
Utakubali kwenda kwa sababu ya makosa yangu? Kila mtu ana makosa yake. So we either stop that corruption that is going on, that is eroding the National Police Service image, or we go.
Top security officials now want regional police commanders to take charge in the fight against corruption, which is so entrenched in the service, a culture that is said to have caused a mistrust between police officers and the citizens.
As a police service, we have been hit very, very bad. And we have been accused very, very badly. And that is why the Inspector General, in his own wisdom, decided to call the leadership at the regional levels and as well the directorates so that we understand this corruption thing which is bedeviling our National Police Service. Why is it a problem? And going forward, how shall we be able to surmount this corruption cancer?
These, as Inspector General of Police Douglas Kanja issues firm orders to all county commanders across the country in a bid to tackle cases of corruption within the police service. Going forward, county commanders will be required to form corruption prevention committees to probe graft cases involving police officers.
I can remember sometimes back I did invite the EACC to join us and look at our systems, our practices, our SOPs and so forth, so that if we have got gaps, that are not working very well for us, we can be able to minimize and probably address matters affecting corruption in the National Police Service.
The IG further explained that the move was necessitated by the need to restore integrity in the police service, which he acknowledged was grappling with ethical issues.
On a very serious note, matters corruption within the National Police Service and how we can be able to deal with it. I know corruption is not about the police alone, it's a societal problem actually. However, as an organization, we must address it from where we sit.
Kanja further stated that the service will still recruit 10,000 police officers despite the over 1 billion shillings budget cut by Treasury.
Recruit to the tune of 10,000 officers so that we can be able to fill our gaps and also ensure that we lower the numbers towards the figures required by the United Nations. Remember, currently we are studying at one police officer to 509 Kenyans. We want to lower that number. So that's the reason why we are still targeting the 10,000 to recruit to the National Police Service.
Samra Mohammed for TV47, Nairobi.
Now, a heated exchange erupted in the Senate Agriculture Committee when Trans Nzoia Governor, that's George Natembeya, appeared to set the record straight on his seedling distribution program dubbed Fukuza Njaa. Now, Governor Natembeya insisted that it would be unfair for the committee chairperson, that's Bungoma Senator Wafula Wakoli, to preside over the session, citing bias. He referred to remarks made by Senator Wakoli at a political gathering where he allegedly stated that they would pin Natembeya down during the committee appearance. Elizabeth Mutuku has these details.
Political rivalry in Western Kenya played out during a sitting of the Senate Agriculture Committee as Trans Nzoia Governor George Natembeya demanded that Bungoma Senator Wafula Wakoli recuse himself from chairing the session.
The chair cannot appear to be biased, and the chair cannot appear to be working on behalf of somebody who is not inside this committee. And I'm just begging, very, very humbly,
Governor,
that if we step out, let that clip be played when we are out. Make your own judgment.
The meeting was adjourned for a few minutes to allow for consultations after Governor Natembeya insisted that a video featuring Wakoli speaking at a meeting attended by National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula be played for other senators. Natembeya argued it would be unfair for what he termed as an already biased chairperson to preside over the session. As a result, Kisumu Senator Tom Ojenda was forced to take over as chair.
Siku za Biblia tulimwachilia Barnaba. Wakamsulubisha nani? Yesu. Barnaba ako Trans Nzoia, Mheshimiwa Spika, mutuachie tumsulubishe na tuondoke njiani.
And that you are assuring the Speaker of the National Assembly and Kenyans at large to put their TVs on. I hope this one is also on, you can put it on, to hear how the Senate is going to grill me. And you actually compared, you had some biblical anecdote about Jesus and Barnabas, and you are saying that in the Bible they crucified the wrong person, but this time around you are going to crucify the right one. Basically, you've made your conclusion.
Natembeya went on to defend his Fukuza Njaa initiative, now its third year, saying it has generated excitement among small-scale farmers, many of whom cannot afford key agricultural inputs. The embattled governor said this demonstrated appreciation for support provided and the program's contribution to national food security, as he claimed that he is politically targeted.
Initiative aligns well with the bottom-up transformation initiative.
The seed.
So you are
the seed initiative.
So you actually ascribe.
I want the national government
transformation.
I want the national government to come to Trans Nzoia.
Yes.
And benchmark. Yes. That indeed is possible, even for this bottom-up economic transformation agenda, to provide even free fertilizer. All counties in the world subside farmers.
Which you believe in now.
Chair. even before reading that blueprint.
Excellent. But now wait again.
The committee gave Governor Natembeya 7 days to submit all the relevant documents. Elizabeth Mutuko, TV47, Nairobi.
Now, preparations for Eid al-Adha have begun all over the world as Muslims are set to celebrate this significant day tomorrow. Thousands of pilgrims from across the globe have gathered on Mount Arafat today, dedicating the day to prayer and supplication. Meanwhile, some Muslims have raised concerns over the high prices of animals, which are traditionally slaughtered to mark Eid. This story has been prepared by Fatima Suleiman.
Eid ul-Adha is usually celebrated in the 12th month, which is the last month in the Islamic calendar after Muslims have completed Hijjah pilgrim at the city of Makkah.
Hii hasa imefungamanishwa na ibada ya Hajj. Katika nguzo tano za Uislamu kuna nguzo ya tano ambayo ni ibada inaitwa Hajj, yani pilgrimage, ambapo Waislamu wanasafiri kutoka ulimwenguni sehemu zozote zile, sehemu zote wanakwenda Makkah, wanafanya ibada maalum.
Muslims usually slaughter animals as a sacrifice on this day to celebrate and to honor the act of obedience of Prophet Ibrahim sacrificing his son to God.
Nabii Ibrahim pale ambapo alipewa amri na Mwenyezi Mungu amchinje mwanawe Ismail, ili kujikumbusha tukio hilo, ndio maana tunakuwa ni wenye kuchinja.
Preparations for this Eid have already started in different counties including Nairobi, Mombasa and Malindi.
Dunia mzima maandalizi ya ibada ya kesho wanaanza leo. Siku ya leo inafahamika kama siku ya Arafa ambayo ni tarehe 9. Na hii siku ya Arafa Waislamu wanaiadhimisha kwa kutekeleza ibada ya kufunga pia kama vile katika Ramadhan.
Meanwhile, some Muslims have raised their concerns over the high prices of animals which are normally slaughtered to mark the celebrations. They are now calling on the government to intervene.
Prices are a bit high. Economy of course has gone high.
Wamekuwa wamepanda bei kidogo na wote wanauza mbuzi na lalamika kwamba serikali imewagandamiza kuhusu mambo ya cess, mambo ya permit. Tungeomba serikali iwapunguzie wakulima wadogo.
Meanwhile, in some counties, Muslims have received meat packages from well-wishers and they have urged the fortunate to help the less privileged.
We are distributing meat packs to families who are vulnerable and may not have access to the ceremony properly.
Now, in what is seen as a spirited move to woo the Nyanza region and strengthen his broad-based development agenda, President William Ruto on Thursday hosted a delegation of leaders and businessmen from Siaya County at State House, Nairobi. The meeting included a detailed briefing on key government development projects earmarked for the region.
The dollar, which was going to 167.
In an extensively engaging meeting with Siaya delegates led by Siaya Governor James Orengo, President William Ruto outlined his government's commitment to prioritize development in the region.
Please come to our aid in transforming Siaya, because where our agriculture is having an impact in society, what national government invests infrastructure and even direct investment into enterprise, can change the life positively of communities.
This coming days after the governor publicly criticized the broad-based government pact with his ODM party boss Raila Odinga. Orengo dismissed engagements of this nature, terming them unnecessary lobbying, while arguing that national government projects are a constitutional right for all regions and not favors pegged on political loyalty.
And you can understand initially, when this... I know you know what I mean.
Ahead of Thursday's meeting with President Ruto, Orengo had consultations with National Treasury Cabinet Secretary John Badi to align on Siaya's development priorities, making Thursday's meeting seamless.
The Jinari Jim has mentioned in Siaya. I want to tell you that maybe the government of Kenya may not invest money, but we have now an investor who is going to do the ginnery in your county.
The president said that among other projects, the government will invest 1 billion in the development of the Usenge Pier and related port infrastructure to boost the blue economy in the region.
A total of 16 markets, 4 large markets, or we are calling municipal markets, that will cost us anywhere around between 300 and 500 million, and another 12 markets that are ESP markets.
He equally noted the government's intention to spend 2.5 billion in construction of 16 modern markets across the country to enhance trade and support local businesses.
We have another 550 million, which we are negotiating. Shortly, we will make that money available because we want to push the numbers to about 21,000 households.
1.6 billion has also been allocated to connect more than 16,000 households to electricity. For TV47, Linda Alela.
Deputy President Kithure Kindiki now says politics is a competition, not a fight, and should never create enmity. He accused opposition leaders of allegedly going around the country causing tension among Kenyans. Speaking in Zombe Kitui East in Kitui County, the Deputy President said that Kenya Kwanza government will do all it can to ensure peace and stability as part of efforts to revive the economy.
Mimi nataka niwaambie musidanganywe watu wetu wa Ukambani kuingia katika siasa ya ujinga na ya bure na ya kuongea tu kusukumana na maneno ya kelele na vita. Kwa sababu siasa ni mashindano ya uongozi, sio vita. Kwa sababu siasa kila kiongozi anakuja anauza sera. Wananchi wale wengi wakimkubalia kama vile mlikubalia Nimrod anaendelea. Ule hajapata leo anangojea labda siku ingine Mungu atamjalia. Simple and clear, isn't it? Kwani ni vita jameni? Sio vita. Kwa hivyo mimi naomba tuheshimiane. Kuna viongozi wanatembea kila mahali wakitukana viongozi, wakitukana wananchi, wakipiganisha nchi, wakiongea mambo ya hatari na kuleta mambo ya wasiwasi baina ya wananchi. I want to assure you, as the Deputy President of Kenya, God loves Kenya so much, and the government will do whatever it is to make sure our country is stable and safe today, tomorrow, and forever. Musiwe na wasiwasi. Ate kunaweza kuwa sijui na machafuko. We cannot allow. Mungu hawezi kubali kwa sababu anapenda Kenya. Na serikali pia haiwezi kubali. Ile uhuru iko ni uhuru ya watu kutafuta viti, hiyo ni sawa sawa. Moja akuje ajieleze. Kesho yake mwingine akuje ajieleze. Ule atapata shukuru Mungu. Ule atakosa angoje. Ama namna gani watu yangu ya Kitui? Mungetaka tukae na amani katika nchi yetu. Tupige siasa ya kuheshimiana. Ndio unaona mimi sinanga mambo mengi. Mimi tu ni mtu ya kufanya kazi ile Mungu amenipatia saa hii. Kwa sababu mambo ya kesho hakuna mtu anajua mambo ya kesho. Na hatutaki hii vurugu ya kusukuma na viongozi kuchemsha wananchi paka kunakuwa na hasira, hamaki ya bure. Na mwenye kupiganisha watu hakuna kitu ati amewafanyia ya muhimu siku ile amekuwa kiongozi. Mimi nimekuambia ile tumejaribu paka saa hii na ile tunaendelea nayo. Wengine pia wakuja waseme ile wamefanya. Na mimi nikiwa hapa naongea hivyo kwa sababu kama nilivyosema hapa ni nyumbani. Hakuna mtu anaweza nichokoza hapa. Kuna mtu ananichokoza hapa kweli? So na tuko na heshima na wale viongozi wameongea vizuri na wale hawajaongea waongee pia vizuri na wasitukane viongozi wengine. Hii ni nyumbani, hapa ni nyumbani kwa Deputy President. Niko katika county jirani. Si ni kweli? Hata ndugu yangu Kalonzo wakati anakujanga huko Tharaka na Meru anasemanga is at home. Na ni kweli. Si ni kweli? Si huko ni kwao? Si hata mimi hapa ni kwetu. Yeah. Na ile maneno imebaki pale ya kushikanisha Kitui County na Tharaka Nithi. Ile ndugu yangu mkubwa alishindwa, mimi nitamsaidia kukamilisha hiyo kazi. Ni rafiki yangu.
All right, let's take a look at what's happening in the world of business, where Director for Urban Development Lillian Kearney has announced that the State Department for Housing and Urban Development, in partnership with the National Treasury, is in the process of formulating the National Urban Development Fund. Now, this fund will provide financial support to cities and municipalities to accelerate urbanization efforts. She made the remarks as preparations for the second Kenya Urban Forum gather pace. The event is scheduled to take place from June 17th to 19th, 2025 in Naivasha, Nakuru County. Kearney urged stakeholders to collaborate in addressing urban challenges such as waste management, inefficient transport systems, and poor drainage infrastructure. Carlos Mejia, a senior urban economist at the World Bank, emphasized that livable cities are engines of economic growth. He affirmed the World Bank's commitment to supporting and financing urban investments aimed at improving living conditions in Kenya's cities and municipalities. Take a look.
At the moment, the country's population that is within the urban setup is about a third of the population, of the national population, which is about 31%. And our growth rate is at 4.3%, which is quite high. And as a country, we need to manage this urbanization. It has been said that by the year 2050, half of the population will be living within the urban areas. So the question that begs is, are we ready for these, to accommodate this huge population within our urban areas?
We also have refugee management, and this sector we are calling it forced displacement. Under the second Kenya Urban Program, we have an objective of integrating refugees and host communities so that we see how development can be sustainable in that way.
As the world's largest multilateral financier in urban development, so we are proud as the World Bank to support the second Kenya Urban Forum, organized by the government of Kenya, and also finance investment in Kenyan cities to make Kenyan cities more livable, inclusive, and
Moving on, senior government officials, stakeholders and executives from the African Export-Import Bank, that's Afrexim Bank, today convened in Nairobi for the Kenya Intra-African Trade Fair, that's IATF 2025 Businesses Roadshow. Now, this event focused on promoting intra-African trade, accelerating Africa's industrialization, and enhancing a global competitiveness under the African Continental Free Trade Area, that's AFCFTA. The Kenya IATF 2025 Business Roadshow is one of several scheduled across the continent ahead of the IATF 2025 Trade Fair, which will take place in Algiers, Algeria, from 4th to 10th September 2025. That's when this event will be happening. The IATF 2025 is expected to attract over 2,000 exhibitors and more than 35,000 visitors from over 140 countries. It is projected to generate more than $44 billion in trade and investment deals, underscoring its vital role in boosting intra-African commerce.
The solutions to Africa lie in Africa. Oftentimes when you think of investment, we don't think Nigeria, we don't think Ghana, we don't think South Africa. We think of going to those faraway places. But last month I was very impressed that one of Kenya's leading restaurant chains was actually acquired by Africa's richest man, Dangote. And that is an indicator that in Africa, there are solutions. And we want to see more of that, because this is an indication that intra-Africa trade and investment is a reality. and it can happen. The Afreximbank is championing the facilitation of intra-Africa trade through a strong partnership with the AFCFTA Secretariat and the African Union Commission to ensure successful implementation of the AFCFTA, which is the Free Trade Agreement of Africa. Kenya is a key member of the bank and a shareholder.
We know the potential that Kenya has, but what we're actually trying to do at Afreximbank is to work with all of you to unlock that potential into jobs that will actually not only transform Kenya, but we are actually looking at using Kenya as one of the key hubs that will help us to transform the continent through trade.
All right, and with that, let's take a short commercial break. We'll be back with much more. So I've got lots of messages that's on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching us on YouTube. That's at TV47 Kenya. We've got one that says, it's Clinton. I'm watching you from Masimba. Another one that says, watching from Mandera. That's for Amir Aden. I've got one that says, from Loaringak. That's Bernardino. We've got Stanley Kiplagat who says, I'm watching from Margat Baringo. Kuna mtu amesema Nikondani, and that is Joseph John. David Kitui, who says, watching from Mombasa City. We've got Evelyn from Umoja. Joseph, watching live from Nyeri. Dixon Kimutai, who says, watching live from Kuserasoi South. So yes, keep those messages coming in. Remember, you can let us know where you're watching from, and we will most definitely say hello to you in the course of this bulletin. Let's take a short commercial break. We will be back with much more. This is the Daily Report. I am Shiksha Arora. You're watching TV47.
This is Kenya's #1 talk show, Dr. Frederick. My name is the Eagle himself. Dr. Frederick is my name.
We are flipping the script, but guess what? Or should I say, guess who is taking over tonight's show?
Anyway, furahia umekaa na kasipuni. CP unit ni Punet. Ni Punet. Punet. So you guys knew about... Piga. Sawa basi. I say, man, that I'm giving the whole time.
I don't want to go back to brokenness.
Never.
I just love the high life. Siwezi taka kuimagine ati nimesota.
You have to watch to find out. Tune in every Wednesday from 7:30 p.m.
Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. Winston Churchill.
Enjoy uninterrupted live streaming of your favorite programs on TV47 and Radio 47 on the go with our new mobile-friendly website. Experience the future of broadcasting. Visit www.tv47.digital or scan this QR code and stream your way to endless news and entertainment. Welcome to the home of untold stories.
Did you know that elevating an injured limb can help reduce swelling? Keeping the injured area raised above the level of the heart can assist in managing swelling and promoting recovery.
How to keep your ice cream cool. Bubble wrap is a powerful insulator. While on the road, keep your chunky monkey from melting by wrapping the print in plastic bubble wrap. It will stay firm for hours.
All right, welcome back. Now, Chinese ambassador to Kenya, Guo Haiyan, has emphasized the urgent need for dialogue amid growing global uncertainty and division. Speaking during a commemoration to mark the International Day for Dialogue Among Civilizations at the United Nations office in Nairobi, that's UNON, Ambassador Haiyan reiterated China's commitment to fully implementing the UN resolution that designates June 10th as the official day for dialogue among civilizations. She reaffirmed China's vision of promoting deeper cultural understanding and global cooperation, noting that culture should be a bridge, not a barrier. Take a look.
The second is to promote mutual learning to transcend clashes. As an African proverb goes, one single pillar is not sufficient to build a house. In China, we have a similar old saying which reads, "The going is difficult when doing it alone. The going is made easier when doing it with many others." In the face of global challenges, no country can stand alone. Cultural differences should not act as source of confrontations, but rather driving force for progress. To build a global community of shared future for mankind, each civilization should pursue harmony through diversity and seek common grounds while reserving differences.
Across diverse civilizations, the universal truism of our shared humanity has been proven beyond a morsel of doubt. I find a particularly striking manifestation of this truism in the African spirit of Ubuntu. Ubuntu means I am because we are, or humanity towards others, meaning I experience myself and my humanity because of you and your humanity. This expression is found in pretty much every African dialect. When we say, and I quote, "Mtu ni watu" in Swahili, we quite literally mean that a person is people.
Now, the registration process for Climate Works, formerly known as Kazi Mtaani, officially commenced today with the creation of the official portal address. Now, this is according to Principal Secretary, State Department of Housing and Urban Development, Charles Hinga, who spoke during the nationwide launch of Climate Works in Nairobi. He noted that the official portal for registrations is now active and will be running for 10 days only. Hinga revealed that the program targets to recruit 113,000 young people who will work under NYS supervision, receiving a daily wage.
It's 50-50, and we also have a provision for PWDs too in the program. I'll deal with the housing one. Levy last. I will deal with it. So when it starts. So today, is the start of the registration process. So the portal is now formally open, and we are asking that the young people to register in numbers. Then after the 10 days of the registration process, we will get into a recruitment process. And this is now where we have got the Ngaos, the Nyumba Kumis, looking at, sorry? And it's all validating and so on and so forth. So that is what is going to follow after. We expect that is also going to take about a week. So technically, if you count 15 days from today, they will then, the Monday that follows that is when they will start working. So before end month, we think. Okay? Right. Yeah, so the issue of online registration, we do understand, yes, there could be those who might have some challenges on technology. We still like to encourage them to go to the, even if it's a chief's place, okay, we do provide them, the chief and the team working there, the assistant chiefs, with some gadgets. So those who are not able to register, they will be helped to register. But it is very, very, very important that we have a digital registration process for purposes of ensuring that there is integrity in that particular process. And I think the PS has said that the process is going to be very fair. So now on the issue of the housing levy. First of all, it came as a surprise to us, the statement by KOTU, because KOTU is one of very few organizations that had the privilege of drafting the act and drafting the regulations. In fact, they are represented in person in the two committees. Then the second thing that you need to understand is that these particular regulations went through all the 47 counties in terms of public participation. Very extensive public participation was done. Now, it's very, very important when we talk about what is this program all about. Housing is not just about four walls and a roof. It cannot be just about four walls and a roof. The social infrastructure that supports human settlement is very, very, very important. As a matter of fact, if you go and study why we have slums, one of the reasons why you find slums coming up is because of just purely lack of schools. And that you will find that there will be a slum that is going to come up around where there's a school. Why? Because the communities that live in these areas, obviously, they have very low incomes, and they cannot afford the cost of transport, you know. And then the other reason why slums come up also is they want to live close to where they work.
All right, now conservation organizations have raised concerns over the proposed Wildlife Bill 2025, terming it more focused on promoting a wildlife economy rather than an actual wildlife conservation. Speaking in Nairobi, conservationists led by Rabia Hawa and Judy Mureithi, who are joining us tonight, they expressed their concern over the proposed involvement of county governments in wildlife management. They argued that it would reduce equity in the distribution of national resources. And of course, to talk about the same, I have them with me in studio. We've got Judy Mureithi, Director, Lawyers for Animal Protection Africa, as well as Rabia Hawa, the Director for Ulinzi Africa Foundation. Firstly, thank you so much for being here tonight, and happy World Environment Day.
Thank you, and you as well.
All right, so ladies, we're going to start off by simply talking about what exactly is this proposed bill, and what do you think are the key challenges with it? So we'll start off with you, Judy.
Yeah, so we're actually applauding the government with trying to come up with a new governance systems in terms of how wildlife should be governed. But all in all, there needed to be inclusion. You know, we have the Constitution, which is the supreme law in the country. We have Article 10 talks about the national values, the sustainable development. Also, we have Article 42 talks about the rights to the clean environment with sustainability. So that should have been taken into account when coming the new regulations here.
All right. All right. And Rabia, maybe you can tell us what exactly the Wildlife Bill 2025 seeks to change or introduce compared to the existing wildlife legislation.
So Shiksha, actually this has been quite a range of concerns for us collectively as conservation organizations. I think when we first went through the bill, we noticed a lot of duplicity. One of the key introductions to the bill is the establishment of a new wildlife regulatory authority, which we feel it would be better to actually look at what are the weaknesses of the Kenya Wildlife Service, the Wildlife Research and Training Institute, and strengthen those institutes instead of establishing an entirely new authority. So that's one of the key changes. We're also seeing new introductions of terminology, things like wildlife credits, things like wildlife offsets, which are not even clearly defined in the bill.
Yeah. All right. Now, when it comes to drafting this particular bill, what exactly is the process? And were conservation stakeholders like yourself, like Rabia especially, were you consulted adequately?
Actually, no, we were not. And this is one of the reasons that we came together. We made a very comprehensive 63-page document submission to the ministry after taking apart the whole bill. But really, that could all have been avoided if we were involved from the onset, really in the development phase of the bill, rather than just the validation stage and going through the public participation process, which is ongoing, and we appreciate that. But it would have been nice to be consulted. We have some of the world's leading experts of conservation in Kenya, and really to draw from their experience and expertise, because at the end of the day, ultimately, we're the ones who are going to deal with the consequences of the bill on the ground.
Judy, you know, some of the key issues that have been mentioned is that when it comes to this particular wildlife bill, is the fact that you're going to be promoting a wildlife economy rather than the actual conservation. Now, maybe you can highlight to me what exactly is wildlife economy. You can maybe tell the viewers who are watching at home who are not well versed with the same, and why exactly is it raising flags?
Okay, so wildlife economy is how much benefit do we get from the wildlife. Already we know that there's so much stress of the wildlife in Kenya.
Yes.
We already have so much human-wildlife conflict, there is habitat destruction and everything else. So it's like we've been taking from the environment, even from the wildlife itself. So when do we get to give? And that's where sustainable development comes in. And so there's a need to have the national capital valuation of all natural resources. And then from there, we can have a better angle in terms of how do we give back, or how do we see the benefit of the animals vis-a-vis us. Yeah.
Okay. Rabia, what are your concerns about the same, and why exactly is this a point of concern for you as a conservationist?
Thank you for that question. And actually, just drawing on what Judy said about doing evaluations, I think that first we should have done an evaluation on exactly where was there any weaknesses in the existing Wildlife Conservation and Management Act 2013, which we were heavily involved in the development of. That would have probably helped to inform some of the structure of this new bill. But then also, again, just do an audit, like what are we changing and why are we changing it? Actually, the Wildlife Conservation and Management Act 2013 has been working quite well. I would say that there are areas for refinement, there are areas for improvement. It would have made more sense to just improve on that document. But now that we have this new bill, how can we really be involved more in making sure that it's a robust document that serves Kenyans, communities, wildlife in a way that is productive and in a way that is actually sustainable and helpful for conservation, instead of just commodifying wildlife, which is what this bill really appears to be doing. I will say also one of our key concerns, I think, in the sector is now the introduction of provisions for mining in protected areas. This is a huge issue. I think, you know, if you're going to gazette something as a protected area, then there's reasons for that. It's because it hosts endangered species, sometimes endemic species that are found nowhere else in the world. And if you're going to now go and look to change that, to kind of dig up what's underneath, then what are you leaving for future generations? So these are really some of our key concerns as well.
Okay. So Rabia, do you think that doing this, potentially we're risking ecological integrity in the sense that we are now prioritizing economic gains? In the sense, you know, sometimes I feel like when it comes to the new wildlife bill, we've seen a lot of the things that have been said, they are aiming and they are kind of directed towards the economy and in terms of, you know, monetary gain. So do you think this is what is happening right now?
I think so, and I think that what we need to appreciate is that wildlife gives infinitely.
Yes.
When we leave wildlife as they are and we help them to thrive, then it's a resource that all Kenyans can benefit from in a more equitable manner. I think that the benefit sharing bill is also something that we need to look at, and what are the alignments there.
Right.
But really looking at commodifying wildlife in the way that you know, is being discussed at the moment is really kind of leaving us feeling very uncomfortable and very uncertain about the future of conservation and wildlife in this country, and also the future of communities that depend on wildlife. I can give you an example. I come from Tana River County. That's where we work, Tana River and Lamu. Tana River has only one national reserve. Actually, there's two. There's Kora and there's the Tana River Primate Reserve that hosts 2 endemic species found nowhere else in the world. The footfall of visitors in Tana River Primate Reserve can be up to 4 visitors in a year. That's not enough to sustain the protective measures that need to be undertaken there. So we really depend on the wider network of parks and reserves around the country to really fuel the conservation that needs to happen in some of these underserved counties that also maybe don't get enough visitors. So it really needs to take a much more holistic approach instead of you know, instead of what we're finding now.
Okay. Now, Judy, what exactly does this mean in the sense, what precedent does this bill set for other protected areas or other areas that are under the same vicinities, in the sense natural resource management in Kenya? So what exactly does this do for other protected areas as well?
It will actually affect the whole country, because remember what we say, yes, we've devolved everything. For every act that counties does in the county, it affects the whole country. And it's an environmental about the ripple effect that we're going to have. We're already having issues with climate change. We've been having issues with like right now we have an issue in Mombasa where some birds are being they're being displaced. To see these small acts, we might think it's just for we want to benefit now, but then what happens tomorrow? And so there's a really huge need for us to have a holistic view of this, and then so that can be able to ensure that we are in line with our sustainable goals and sustainable principles.
Okay. Now, Judy mentioned something very interesting. She says, what happens in the future? Rabia, if this bill passes in its current form, maybe you can explain and expound on the impacts, both positive and negative.
I would say that one of the immediate things that you would find is, to put it, I think, as politely as possible, the degradation of the Kenya Wildlife Service as we know it. And I think that's where really a lot of us are very concerned. We're really worried also about the tax burden that brings onto Kenyans. You know, establishing an entire new authority that has its own office, its own officers, its own, I mean, I think we all know how that goes. I think that really is a cause for concern, also for just Kenyans at large. But there are also other elements within the bill, like what are we looking at really if we're going to start permitting mining in national parks? This bill makes provisions using language like KWS shall permit mining in national parks, providing that certain measures are met. For us, this is not good enough because we want to see our parks protected. This is the future, our future heritage for our children and coming generations. So I think the implications, both immediate and far-reaching, are very concerning for us. On a positive note, it's nice to see that there is attention in the sector, but I think that, again, the lack of inclusion is cause for concern as well. I think if we were involved from the onset, then we would have really less reasons to speak out.
Okay. Judy, what alternatives or amendments would conservation groups, of course, conservationists like Rabia, lawmakers like yourself, what exactly would you propose just so that the bill is more balanced?
Okay, as my colleague has rightly put, we needed first an audit. What is not working?
Okay.
And then we try and have targeted amendments for the things that are not currently working. And so with that, it gives a more holistic way. You know, the bill that we have read, it's not 100%, but it has had very key steps in terms of conservation. Right now, we know, I remember people are, okay, the conservationists are really pushing on the penalties. If you caught trafficking and when trafficking levels are very high. And so we have actually seen a very huge change in terms of that because of that. And so
over the last few years?
Yeah, over the last few years. For the last actually more than 10 years.
Okay.
And so we should have had like an audit and say, okay, then this is not working. Even KWS, there's an issue with KWS. We have a really huge funding issue with KWS. So where we get money to fund all these other organizations. Right. We can have the compensation authorities. Actually, there are 4 more authorities that are being established in the new law. And so they are pertinent issues that we really need them to be addressed, and then maybe we can move forward based on some of these suggestions.
And what would you like to say about the same, Rabia, as a conservationist? What do you think needs to be done to make this particular bill more balanced and more fair towards wildlife and, of course, towards protecting our parks and our national reserves?
I mean, I think ultimately this is a bill for all of us as Kenyans, for stakeholders, for communities, for Kenyans at large. And I think what really we're calling for is more inclusion, more involvement, more stakeholder participation, actually robust stakeholder participation, because at the end of the day, it's us and the communities who are living amongst the wildlife. We're the ones to bear the brunt of the results of the bill that comes through in the form that it is. And so really it's just, we know it's still going through the participatory process, but how can we be more involved? How can communities be, their voice be heard a little bit more? With the public participation as well, I would like to say that I feel like it could have been done a little bit better. I do not personally understand what the rush is with this bill. When they went around the country over the last, I think it's the last 1 month, you know, in various counties, they held the meetings for Tana River County communities in Garissa. Now the fare coming from Tana River to Garissa is like 1,800 bob, right? If you're coming from like a place like Kipini, it's like 1,800 bob one way. How are you going to raise that money? And all you're doing is going to public participation, which really might even be a box ticking exercise. You know, you haven't even read the bill because it's so, like, it's a couple of hundred, it's very extensive. It's a couple of 100 pages. It's also in English. It's not in a language that a layman community member can be conversant with, even with the technical terms. Wildlife credits, wildlife offsets. I mean, some of this terminology, even for us, is like raising a lot of flags and confusion. There's an introduction of green parks. Now, for us in the sector, we know that a green park is something that's a listing under IUCN. But for an average Kenyan or a community member, they have absolutely no idea. So how can we make this process more inclusive, more fair? I think it shouldn't be rushed, because ultimately this is the document that is going to govern how we're managing our natural resources in Kenya for Kenyans and for wildlife. So it really needs to have a little, well, actually not a little, it needs to have a lot more inclusion, a lot more.
Okay, thank you so much for that. We hear your concerns. As we continue to address this particular Wildlife Bill 2025 and the concerns that it has come with, we'll be taking a short break, but we'll be right back. Remember, today is World Environment Day, as we continue to address the challenges, the key challenges that we are faced in as a country when it comes to the environment, when it comes to protecting our, green places. So we'll be talking about that in a short while. Make sure you tune in and make sure you join in on this conversation. Remember, at TV47 Kenya, that's how you can find us. And if you have any questions to ask our very able guests in studio, please feel free to ask as well. And do let us know what your concerns are. Have you read the Wildlife Bill 2025? Do you have any concerns? Do you think that this is something that should be amended, should be changed? Let us know at TV47 Kenya. We'll be back in a short while. Make sure you stay right here. Don't go anywhere.
This is Kenya's #1 talk show, Dr. Frederick tonight. My name is the Eagle himself. Dr. Frederick is my name.
We are flipping the script, but guess what? Or should I say, guess who is taking over tonight's show?
Ani wewe furahia umekaa na kasipuni. CP unit ni Punet. Ni Punet. Punet. So you guys knew about Piga. Sawa basi. I say man, that don't give you the whole time.
I don't want to go back to brokenness.
Never.
I just love the high life. Siwezi taka kuimagine ati nimesota.
You'll have to watch to find out. Tune in every Wednesday from 7:30 p.m.
Welcome back to the Daily Report. Of course, this particular segment is known as Green Fix, and today we are discussing the concerns over the Wildlife Bill 2025. With me in studio, I have Rabia Hawa, who's the director, Ulinzi Africa Foundation. I also have Judy Mureithi, the director for Lawyers for Animal Protection Africa, and they have already raised a couple of concerns and things that they believe need to be amended in the new Wildlife Bill. That's the Wildlife Bill 2025. Let's continue with this particular conversation as we continue discussing the impacts of this Wildlife Bill. Rabia, you know, when it comes to your work as a wildlife conservationist, you've been doing this for a very long time. I would say your career runs over a decade, 2 decades maybe now? Yeah, around that. Not to disclose your age, but she started young. So Rabia, for you, what are some of the milestones that you've managed to achieve over the last few years? You know, starting from the times when you first started, when you first got into conservation, when you first got into KWS, all the way to now, when you know the great things that you've been doing. I feel like our viewers really need to know more about you because you're doing a great job. So maybe you can highlight some of your accomplishments and milestones in wildlife protection.
Okay, thank you. You kind of put me on the spot there a little bit. I wasn't expecting that question, but yeah, I've just been very passionate about wildlife all my life, really. And so while I was working in the media on Radio Africa, I would also volunteer with Kenya Wildlife Service and various other organizations across the country because I just had an interest. So whenever I had my off days, I would just go to the field. If it meant going on patrol with rangers, I would do that. If it meant rescuing a turtle and kind of releasing it back into the ocean, I would do that. Like anything to do with animals, I was there. And then in 2009, I believe it was, I started a forum called Kenyans for Wildlife, which was really just a platform for people to be able to share information about wildlife, sightings, even beautiful photos of our wildlife, and just really kind of get people to have access to that information as well in terms of what was going on in the conservation sector. I realized also that the conservation sector is very small. We kind of just live in our own little bubble and we share information amongst ourselves. We get very frustrated. I think there's a lot of mental health issues also because we do get a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress and trauma as a result of the kind of things that we see in the field. It's not easy to, you know, see and experience an elephant that you've been following for like 5 years and then see it dead one day with its tusk taken out. It's also not easy having to rush community members to hospital and finding that they have really some very severe injuries as a result of their conflicts with wildlife. And so I really want to say firstly that I'm so grateful to everyone who has taken it out of their interest and their life to be a part of the conservation movement in Kenya. I think it's so important. I would like to say that one of my my personal highlights has been obviously starting Ulinzi Africa Foundation. I've now also revived Kenyans for Wildlife, just as a WhatsApp community.
That's amazing.
But it's really because I feel like there's so many Kenyans that are interested in wildlife.
Yes.
You know, like they're writing to me on X every day, on Facebook. Like people just want to find a way to be involved. I think that there should be more opportunities in the sector, but unfortunately, you know, most organizations are donor dependent, so it's really quite difficult. Yes. But even if you're not kind of involved work-wise, I think just get out there, go into the field and just interact with wildlife. I would say another highlight, aside from starting Ulinzi and operating in Tana River and Lamu, very difficult areas to work in. We now have a team of 2 teams of rangers that work to protect wildlife. We also have set up a marine program, which is really important because I feel like in Kenya we focused so heavily on, as you see in your background, rhinos and lions and elephants. Like no one really talks about sharks, no one really talks about turtles, and actually sharks are being massacred in our waters. We have, you know, commercial fisheries that are really depleting our ocean resources at an extravagant rate. Like I am quite worried about our marine ecosystem. So we set up our marine program. And we also now are working a lot on advocacy, so looking at things that are emerging threats to ecosystems, so issues like mining, for example, and just bringing people together and trying to galvanize communities and trying to galvanize the conservation organizations as well, so that we all really move with one voice and strengthen each other, so that we can really look at some of these underserved areas that don't get a lot of attention. Like no one knows about Kipini, everyone knows about Masai Mara. And that's why Masai Mara has so many organizations, quite a lot of community programs happening there. But in an area like Tana River and Lamu, where there's no tourism and there's travel advisories left, right, and center, it's quite difficult actually to conserve. It's very difficult to even bring in tourism. So you have to find other ways to really be innovative and really protect these ecosystems for the future. A lot of people don't know about connectivity of ecosystems, for example. Like in Tana Delta, that coastal forest actually supports the rainfall in Savo ecosystem. But all the tourists go to Savo, you have many organizations in Savo, and just us in Kipini. So you see, there's a lot of, I think there's a lot of room for people to explore new areas in conservation. For us, we welcome anyone to just come and join us and just have an experience. And you know, we're very grateful to also organizations like Lawyers for Animal Protection in Africa, because a lot of times we also need legal support, you know, and to know that we're in that framework.
I was actually getting to Judy. Judy, maybe you can tell me more a bit about Lawyers for Animal Protection Africa, what exactly you do and what kind of work does, you know, your particular team consist of? What exactly do you do in terms of protecting animals?
As we know, lawyers are boring. Lawyers we have so many things about lawyers, but then we at LAPA, we call it LAPA, we try to make law interesting in terms of how do people relate with the law. You know, from a story as Rabia's stories, they're very interesting stories. But how law comes in is now bringing the stories into policy and then making people now relate with everything else. And so that's where we're here. So LAPA is based in Kenya. We formed it with my 2 colleagues. One is called Amy, another one is called Jim. And so in LAPA, what you just do is just trying to see how do we connect the law, the people, and the environment, using the one health, one welfare. And I'll say the biggest project we've had is what we were working with Rabia, is the court monitoring project, which has been phenomenal. We've been in that project from 2010 through Wildlife Direct and other organizations. And so, as Rabia says, not many people resonate with wildlife. And so people will always be complaining, we'll have all these messages, but then they need the lawyers to come in. So that's when we come in. So our highlight has been, we developed this cool system called the Wildlife Information Tracking System, which we've been trying to track and see how is crime relating with the community, like how does the how the human-wildlife conflict is relating with people. And you know, we lose more wildlife through human wildlife conflict, not
yes.
poaching anymore.
Yes.
And so now we're just trying to see that connection and show people that. Now that's where lawyers come in to help you with these things. We go to court, we fight for the animal rights and also your rights in terms of the compensation and trying to come up with these policies. Like now how we are heavily involved with in the Wildlife Act, yeah. And also we are currently working with Rabia with a marine project called Waves Project, which is a very interesting project. So we're just trying to figure out how many people know how we can protect the sharks, or how can we protect the ecosystems in the marines. And so, yeah, I'm really looking forward for this new part of our organization, and I'm really happy to be here.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ladies. This has been such an insightful conversation. I've actually learned so much when it comes to conservation of wildlife, of marine as well, marine ecosystems. And it's nice to see that the two of you are actually fighting for the voiceless, because really wildlife, I mean, do they have a way to protect themselves? Yes, they do. But are they able to most of the times? Human-wildlife conflict also comes into the way. So there's a lot of there's a lot of factors that come into play when it comes to conservation and protection of wildlife. So thank you so much for doing the great work you're doing. That is Judy Mureithi, Director, Lawyers for Animal Protection Africa. We also have Rabia Hawa, Director, Ulinzi Africa Foundation, who have been with me in studio as we discuss the concerns over the Wildlife Bill 2025. So if you have any concerns of the same nature, talk to us. Do let us know on social media at TV47 Kenya, at Shiksha Arora, at Rabia Hawa on X, as she said, and at Judy Mureithi?
Wangari Judy.
Wangari Judy.
Yeah.
All right. You can speak to us. Do let us know if there's something that you have to chime in on this conversation on the Wildlife Bill 2025, and we would absolutely love to hear from you and engage further on social media. All right. With that, it's time for us to delve into sports news. Top on sports news tonight, Kenya's para-volley national teams are preparing for the Africa Championship, which will be held at Moi International Sports Centre, Kasarani from July 4th to 9th, 2025. Our sports reporter Duncan Mutua has been following up on Kenya's team's preparations ahead of the championship and has prepared the following report. Take a look.
Inside Kasarani Indoor Arena, Kenya's national para-volley men's and women's team are in their fourth week of the non-residential camp preparing for the Africa Championship, set to take place from the 4th of July.
Mazoezi iko sawa, tunaendelea vizuri. We are into the fourth week. Tulianza tarehe 15 ya Mei. Unaona tunaelekea kumaliza wiki ya 3, and this is very good. Ni kwamba tunajiandaa vizuri sana kwa the African Championship.
After narrowly missing out of the Paralympics last summer, they are now eyeing continental glory, which will see them secure a spot in the World Championship.
Kulingana na zile mazoezi ambayo tunafanya, tuko na uhakika kwamba tutawakilisha Kenya kule World Championship.
Ile tunataka ni ushindi. Hakuna kitu yoyote, ushindi. Juu tunataka kuenda World Cup, na hiyo ndio mtegemeo yetu.
Tukiwa nyumbani lazima tuchukue hii kikombe kwa hali na mali.
Kile ambacho hatujafanya, hatujaweka timu katika residential camp, na tunaona ikifikia tu Monday hapo next week wataweza kuingia.
The women's category in the championship will feature host Kenya, Zimbabwe, Rwanda, Congo, Uganda, South Africa and Burundi.
Coaching styles ambayo tuna receive tunaona iko sawa kulingana na zile tulipata huko mwanzo. Sasa hii tunaona tuko juu, game iko sawa.
The men's team will feature Kenya, Rwanda, Zimbabwe, Nigeria, Egypt, Algeria, Libya among others.
Ile timu huwa inatutatiza ni Rwanda, lakini tunajiandaa vizuri. Raundi hata sisi tutaweza kuwaweza.
Makocha wamekuwa wanajaribu kuangalia video za zile timu zingine zile ambazo zinakuja hapa, tuone vile tunaweza pambana nao vilivyo.
The two finalists in the Para-Volley Africa Championship will earn a direct qualification to the 2026 sitting Para-Volley World Championship for men and women, scheduled for July 10th to 17th in China. Duncan Mutua, TV47 Sports.
Now, hundreds of gaming stakeholders from across the continent converged in Nairobi for the Gaming Tech Africa Summit 2025. The summit took place just days after the Betting Control and Licensing Board, that's BCLB, released new advertising regulations. Stakeholders discussed the need for a balanced ecosystem where innovation, regulation and player protection work together rather than against each other. Some believe that growth should not come at the expense of integrity or responsibility, proposing a dialogue to close the gap between the pace of regulation and technological evolution to avoid stalling innovation. They emphasized that as Africa's gaming industry matures, its future will be defined by how well it balances innovations, ethics and accessibility. Take a look.
The summit is a big milestone, as you can compare, in comparison to how we started last year. There's more regulators now, there's more players in the industry. There is, I think, more involvement. And our cry has been more of collaboration, and we are happy to see that it is happening now by the involvement of many players and stakeholders of the industry here. Yeah, in this summit here, 2025. When we over-regulate or when we introduce heavy taxes, it actually kills innovation, because part of what we turn over as a company still goes back to innovation and development and research. So a lot of that already is in place, only that we cannot do it on our own. It requires a lot of collaboration between the regulators and other stakeholders in the market. But we are very, very keen on player protection. So we engage different mechanisms for player protection. Number one, we enable and we give control to players through consent and control mechanisms where they can actually be able to take timeouts from our platforms, request to be for their accounts to be suspended. We look at things like tech for age verification and other AI things that we integrate in our platforms.
Now, moving on, National Cereals and Produce Board, that's NCPB men's handball coach Brian Matthews has been named the Sports Journalists Association of Kenya, that's SJAK Coach of the Month for May in partnership with Betika. Now, NCPB's victories in May were pivotal in their race for the title, including a thrilling 33-28 win over fierce rivals Equity Bank at Nyayo National Stadium. Other wins included 35-30 against Ulinzi and 42-19 versus Wakanda and 49-8 against Mountain Prime. Other nominated coaches included Kakamega Homeboys coach Francis Baraza and DCI women's volleyball team coach Patrick Sunshine Development Tour East Africa Swing.
Our team, bila team singekuwa hapa. Handball ni team sport, so I appreciate the team effort, management ku provide mali watu wanaweza fanya mazoezi na malipo pia, na pia makocha wengine wale wametusukuma kufika mali tuko na tushinde hizo mechi. Bila au kutusukuma tungejituma zaidi. So I appreciate that. I want to also appreciate SJAK and Betika for the initiative ya kutambua makocha wale wanajituma. Pia wale makocha wengine kutoka volleyball DCI na pia football lao tulikuwa tunagombea nao. Na wapongeza sana kwa sababu wamejituma kwenye uwanja wao. They should not give up. There are many awards coming hapa mbele. So mwezi huu wangu next ni out, tukikosa pia sisi tupige makofi wakipata. So it's sports. We learn, we win some, we lose some. But here hawajapoteza. Hii pia ni ya makocha wote wale wanajituma.
Now, Windsor Golf Hotel and Country Club's Njoroge Kibugu capped off a dominant performance with a flawless final round of 5 under par 67 to claim the title at the first leg of the Sunshine Development Tour East Africa Swing at Thika Greens Golf Resort. Now, Kibugu's 3-day total of 15 under par 2-1 saw him finish 5 shots clear of the chasing pack. Rwanda Celestine Nsanzuera, the qualifying school winner in March, mounted a spirited challenge throughout the week, finishing second with a final round of 4 under par 68 and a total of 10 under par 206. Royal Nairobi Golf Club's John Legirma was the highest ranked amateur, finishing with a 3 under par 69 in the final round for a total of 5 under par 211. Veteran Kakamega Golf Club Pro Dismas Indiza posted a solid final round of 3 under par 69 to close the tournament at 4 under par 212, securing a top 5 finish. The Sunshine Development Tour East Africa swing now moves to Ruiru Sports Club for the second leg, scheduled from June 9th to June 11th, 2025. Now, as regional professionals and elite amateurs look to build on their performances in pursuit of sunshine, tour points and official world golf ranking recognition.
Definitely tough going into the back nine. Celestine was knocking on the door, but we held strong, pulled through, and it feels amazing to come out with the win. I'll say there were a little bit of nerves, but I just kept telling myself there's a lot of golf to play. Just keep patient, be patient, and putts will drop, because they weren't dropping on the first nine. And eventually they did, especially the last 5 holes. So I just told myself, just stay patient.
The day was hot, I can say it was hot. And I was playing with the best golf also in Kenya. So after turning, I was 2 shots behind. So he started with the birdie on number 10. He go 3 shots ahead of me. Then I was like, let me leave it.
There are a few changes in my swing towards the end of last year, which is really paying well. So I've hit ball off the tee very well this week. My approach shots were really good. I was a bit struggling in putting.